I wasn't entirely convinced by Viktor Gyökeres at the start, but now I think there's no denying he is an absolute goal machine. And if Arsenal had anything about them this January, they'd be going all out to try and sign him. And this is coming from someone who's waxed lyrical about Havertz, saying that we don't need a striker necessarily, and we need to be going more for a maverick of a left winger to replace a Martinelli and compete with Trossard as well. But the goal rate that Gyökeres is providing in all competitions consistently now, I think we need to be looking at that and saying, if there's a player, if there's a striker, a number 9 out there who's available that can give you such a high return every single week, we need to be trying to go and get him. And it's not like Arsenal have shown no ambition to try and get a striker at all. We tried to get Benjamin Sesko last summer, which would suggest that Arteta doesn't entirely see Havertz as the out-and-out number 9 striker for Arsenal going forward. And what Gyökeres has shown is he can bail his side out when they need a goal, when they need someone that's going to save them and get them 3 points or get them an extra point. He can do that and stand up and be that guy to do that. And that is simply what Arsenal, this current Arsenal team, is lacking right now. Someone that's going to save us from a very nasty, deep block when we're trying to open up a game and score our first goal to then bounce off and start scoring even more goals. We're missing someone that's going to compete with the biggest names in the league for numbers. Of course, we got Bukayo Saka, who's high in the metrics for creating chances and getting assists, but we haven't got a gunman who's going to really stick it to an Erling Haaland and get those goals. Now, a lot of people have looked at Alexander Isak in the past couple of seasons and thought he would be the guy because he best replicates a Thierry Henry type profile. And I completely understand that he brings a lot more to his game than what Gyökeres does. But in terms of out and out number 9, centre forward play and scoring lots of goals, there's no denying that Viktor Gyökeres is above Isak. Now, context is everything. Isak's playing in the Premier League. Like I said, he's got more to his game. He can play in multiple positions. But what does this Arsenal team need? Because as far as I'm concerned, we've got a lot of versatility already. We've got a lot of players who can give us a bit of magic here and there, but we need someone that's going to really bail us out when we need them to. In the attacking line, I mean, because we've got our defenders who bail us out and keep us in games and keep us points. When was the last time our attack just bailed us out and won us a game? I can't quite remember. Now, I said at the start, I wasn't entirely convinced by Gyökeres at the beginning. That's because I watched him live for Coventry City. And while there's a lot of hype and excitement around him from the Coventry fans, a lot of people talking about Gyökeres, who was someone I hadn't heard of at the time. I went and watched him, and yes, he scored in the game. I watched him playing, but his overall play didn't really satisfy me. At the time, I believed that he would be a very good signing for a team like West Ham. But again, this was a few seasons ago, his final season at Coventry before he moved on to Sporting Lisbon. And he's now gone to Sporting Lisbon. Last season won the title there and was insanely good. The goals, again, are just incredible. And this season he's continued that. Not just in the league, but in the Champions League. We saw that against Manchester City last night with Erling Haaland on the pitch when Man City were completely rolling over Sporting. Who was the man to step up and bail his team out and end up winning the game 4-1? That was Viktor Gyökeres. Again, I'm going to go back to it. Bailing his team out, saving his team with that star quality, with the goals, standing up to the plate to take a couple penalties when Erling Haaland had previously just missed his. This Arsenal team don't have that. We don't have a player who's just going to stand up and just save us. Because when we play against a team who are happy to come out and play free-flowing football, we pick them apart and we score goals and we win the game. It's when we come up against a team who are happy to get a 0-0 draw, sit back in a disgusting low block and try to play counter-attacking football. That's when we struggle because we don't have a player who's just going to find something out of nowhere. Hence why I've been waxing lyrical about us signing a left winger, a maverick, someone that's going to take a bit of pressure off Saka, someone that's going to take a bit of pressure off our defenders and just do something magical in a game which is tight. Raheem Sterling on loan in the last hours of deadline day, I'm sorry, is not quite good enough, and that was not the type of player that Arsenal needed. While he still needs to be given a chance, we all know he's not going to be that guy. And so I'm looking at a Viktor Gyökeres for January, not even the summer. I think with Amorim leaving, there's a big hole there at the club. I'm not sure if that will spiral Sporting down negatively, but I think it probably will. They're the only team this season who have gone unbeaten. I think they've won every game in all competitions this season. The only team to have done that. And the manager is leaving to go join Man United. And I don't know how that could change things for a Viktor Gyökeres being their star player. Will he look at that and think, yeah, I think it's time to go in January, especially if a team like Arsenal come calling who need a striker, who need a gunman. Gyökeres has played in England before. He's played in the Championship. Like I've mentioned before, he was playing at Coventry City. So in terms of the physicality and the pace of the game, I think he will be fairly used to it. Again, I'm going to go back to the Champions League. He's banging them in the Champions League as well. He's not doing it in some poxy Portuguese league, with no disrespect, because it's actually quite a decent league now. But he's not doing it in a Farmers League. He's proving it against Man City, who's arguably the best team in Europe, with Erling Haaland on the pitch. Because before the game, all the talk was about Haaland, Gyökeres. Who's going to score more goals in this game? Is Gyökeres going to turn up in the big game when it really matters? And he did. And Erling Haaland, on the other hand, didn't. And what would this mean to a Kai Havertz? Because effectively, you're saying replace him, really. Or I don't think any of us would want to see Havertz move into midfield. But I don't know. Arteta's a smart coach, and I think he'd find a way around it. And I think it's healthy to have two very good players in that position. I'm sure you can find a way to play them together as well. But that shouldn't be our problem. That's not really for us to think about. What we need to be thinking about is winning trophies and the Premier League title this season. And it's just typical that the one time Man City decide to crumble and be absolutely terrible, losing 3 games in a row for the first time since April 2018, Arsenal decide to poxy around and just play like absolute rubbish like we have done in recent weeks. And I mentioned a couple of days ago, if Arsenal want to win the title, they're going to have to go and try get a star in January to give us a boost, just like the Trossard signing did. It didn't get us over the line, but it definitely gave us a boost. And we need a player like that this January. In terms of price, with Amorim leaving as well, I think that could encourage Gyökeres to push for an exit this January. I think the problem with January is it could be a bit more costly, but how much are we talking? 50 to 70 mil within that bracket for the goal machine that he is. Is it worth it? Probably. I mean, who else do you go and get? Who else is there? This is the problem I've had with Arsenal fans calling for a world-class striker for the past season. Who is there in the market to go and get? Now, Gyökeres has stepped up and he's proven it on the big stage in the Champions League now, which has influenced me to make this video and speak about Arsenal trying to go and get him. But previously, my judgments were set on watching him at Coventry and not being completely convinced for him to make a step up to the Premier League, not just trying to get into the top 4, but trying to get over the line and winning the title. And so, with Edu gone now, with the current position Arsenal are in, trying to get over the line, with Liverpool playing as well as they're playing, with Man City dropping off how they have, with Rodri being out for City for the entirety of the season, I think if Arsenal have anything about them, they've got to go all out for Gyökeres this January. Even if that means we don't have as much to spend in the summer, because I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure we ended last summer in a profit, which, if you're trying to go for a Premier League title, is not good enough. So, for Viktor Gyökeres, in terms of numbers, that's now 5 goals and 1 assist in 4 Champions League games this season so far. He's currently the joint top goal scorer in the competition with Harry Kane. That probably sets him as the 3rd best striker in Europe right now, behind Kane and Haaland. In regards to his league form, he's played 16 games and scored 20 goals. I mean, goal rate like that, you cannot ignore that goal rate. If it was just completely out the blue, like it was last season, because you can't really make too much of a judgment from the Championship when he was playing for Cov. His first season at Sporting was insanely good as well. But you take that with a pinch of salt and you say, okay, his first season, we need to see a bit more. He's proven it again this season. So I think enough's enough. And you got to say, at 26 years old, in his prime, I think he's a perfect option for Arsenal to be looking at right now. And the only other option out there is Isak, like I mentioned before. Injuries is an issue. Goals aren't at the same rate as Gyökeres. Price would probably be a lot more because he's playing for Newcastle in the Premier League and he's their star player. And so I'm going to leave it at that because I'm pretty sure most of you are going to agree with this one, surely. I mean, I've been arguing with this sort of point for a while, but I seen enough last night to say that's exactly what Arsenal need. Gyökeres doesn't necessarily give you everything you need outside the box in overall play, but does Erling Haaland give Man City that? No. And he's arguably their most important player, probably behind Rodri. Why? Because the volume of goals, you cannot ignore the volume of goals. At this rate, if you're trying to get over the line and win a title, you need a player that can give you that. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. A very interesting point. Do I think Arsenal will go and make a move for him in January? No, because right now I'm not seeing the ambition from the club. Do I think he could potentially go to Man United and follow Amorim there? I hope not, because that's another good player that could go to waste. We've seen the amount of talented players that have moved over to Old Trafford and have completely fallen off a cliff. Do I want to see a top striker like that go to Man United with Højlund and Xerxes already there and completely decline their career? No, not really. Do I even think that he's a Man United type player? No, not at all. Do I think he would fit into this Arsenal team? Absolutely. I think he would fit this Arsenal team like a glove. And I think he's what we need. And I think right now in his career, he'd be absolutely crazy not to make that move. Anyways, let me know what you think. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.